It's almost here. Number 1, Auburn at number 2, Alabama. First ever number 1 versus number 2 matchup in SEC basketball history, at least on the men's side. Norlander, you dedicated the lead of this week's court report to Auburn, Alabama. So who better to get us fired up? Fire me up, Norlander. Fire me up. Tell me everything I need to know about Auburn at Alabama.
Well, I talked to Oates and Pearl earlier this week. Set up, please go read it if you haven't already. I had a blast building this out, putting it together. I've got not every single one, but I got just a boatload of number 1 versus number 2 all-time stats. When they've met in conference, when they've met in the postseason, when they've met in the regular season. This is the 9th straight time that a number 1 versus number 2 has happened in the regular season. The last time we had a 1-2, if you're curious, that happened in a postseason matchup. It was Carolina, Illinois in 2005. The most recent 1 versus 2 prior to this Saturday, that was Gonzaga, UCLA back in the 21-22 season, I guess it was, or was it 22-23? But that one out in Vegas there was the last one that we had, which was actually, I thought we had gotten one more recently than that. It was 2021, so it was a 21-22 season, and Gonzaga beat UCLA by 20 points. On that note, 43% of the time, 19 of the previous 44 meetings. So Saturday will be the 45th all-time number 1 versus number 2 matchup. That goes back to the 49-50 season when the AP poll began. But 43% of the time, we get a game decided by 6 points or fewer. So less than a coin flip, but on campus, big-time rivals. Very exciting. The SEC has never had a number 1 versus number 2 until now. There's only been 2 times where an SEC team was involved in a 1 versus 2 matchup when the teams were in the same state, and Bruce Pearl has been the coach for both of them. There is this game, and then there was, of course, Memphis versus Tennessee back in 2008. I'll let you know that Bruce Pearl had the team that was the road team in that matchup, and Bruce Pearl's team won. Bruce Pearl has a road team in this matchup, although unlike 08, Bruce Pearl's team is ranked number 1 overall. A lot of anticipation. Talking to Nate and Bruce, they really are they acknowledge and are embracing how special this is. They really are. But both of them brought up to me, we have to play this team again, and we might have to play them a 3rd time and maybe even a 4th time. So we'll see how many chapters this rivalry has this season. But I think it is so perfectly timed that the Super Bowl just ended. We've got the bracket reveal Saturday. The SEC is having its best season ever. Could be the best conference in a single season ever, Parrish. And we are getting the first ever intra-SEC 1 versus 2 matchup between 2 programs that have significantly elevated, been to Final Fours, have won 6 of the past 8 conference and or regular season SEC tournaments. There's just so much about this that feels like it was fated to be, and yet at the same time, it's completely unprecedented. The state has never had anything remotely like this. You've probably heard it plenty at this point because it's an interesting talking point that's been hammered home. Auburn and Bama have never met in 1 versus 2 in football. That's never happened. It's finally happening here in basketball. And as I pointed out in the story, there's no even close second. In terms of the combined ranking of these 2 teams is 3. Number 1, Auburn versus number 2, Alabama. The second closest was last season when Auburn and Alabama squared off. And let me bring up the exact number here because I think it was 26 or 36 overall. They've never met as a top 5 matchup. They've never met as a top 10 matchup. They've never met as a top 15 matchup. A year ago, Auburn was 4th in the country. Alabama was 24th. Combined ranking 28. That was the best ever. So it's a really, really awesome deal, man. I can't wait. It's smack dab in the middle of the afternoon, so you build your entire day around it. And yeah, it's a huge football rivalry, maybe the biggest one out there. But these schools have really upped their game in basketball significantly, and right now they are operating at a super, super high level. I can't wait for the game, man. We've had an amazing season so far, and every weekend has given us reasons to really get amped up. But damn, a number 1 versus number 2. Big picture, will it affect who makes the Final Four, who wins the national title? I don't know. What I do know is stuff like this in the middle of February. We're coming off last weekend when we were on this pod hyped up about St. John's UConn. Well, now we get this. It's even better. I can't wait for it. Coleman Coliseum is going to be incredible. I mean, I'm so envious of everyone that gets to go to this game, cover it, see it in person, coaching it, playing it. Really, really special stuff. And Pearl did tell me, winning that game in 08 for his Tennessee team, he said he wasn't sure if Tennessee was better than Memphis going into the game. But he told his team like he knew they were going to win. There was just something about the way they prepped, how they were, the days leading up to it. There was so much hype in Memphis, as you well know. You can talk plenty about that game because you were there to experience it. But there was something in him that told him that they were going to win the game and it was going to mean something significant for the state of the program. Pearl's done amazing things at Auburn. He's the best coach in that school's history already. He didn't tell me he thinks they're going to beat Alabama, obviously, but he said the things that it meant for Tennessee back then to get that win and become a number one team for the first time ever. If we can beat Alabama in this setting, in this game, like it can give our program, our school, just that little bit extra here on what could be a super special season.
That number 1 versus number 2 Memphis, Tennessee was something people around here will talk about forever. I mean, game day was here. It was popping. It was a party all day long. I mean, it was like game day early in the morning, and then it was a prime time tip on ESPN. So everybody got downtown at like 6:30, 7 in the morning, and just stayed. And the whole, for people who've never been to downtown Memphis FedEx Forum, I mean, it's right on Beale Street. I mean, everything is right there. And it was just one of the really great days in Memphis basketball history up until the point where the game started. And then it was an ugly game. I don't know if you remember it. It was an ugly game. And Tennessee won it. And there was this clip to sort of back up what Bruce said. There used to be, I think it was called Jillian's, but it's more or less, think of David Buster's in downtown Memphis. And there was like a Tennessee fan, rally type thing pregame. Because there's obviously a lot of Tennessee alums and Tennessee fans in Memphis. And so Bruce was speaking to them. And this is, I don't guess it's necessarily pre-phones on your camera, but it was, not everybody had the type of phones they have on their walking around with.
It was there. It was just a grainy situation. I think there was phone camera technology capable back then, but different age altogether. Yes.
Anyway, there was a video that surfaced from that rally where Bruce Pearl was talking to the Tennessee fans, and he's doing one of his speeches, and I can't remember the quote exactly, but it's something along the lines of, "And we're going to go kick their ass," and everybody, yeah, and it's like, wow, undefeated Memphis, you're on the road. It's Derrick Rose and Chris Douglas Roberts. You're going to kick their ass. And then they went and won the game. It was a awesome weekend. Also because like every national media member came here, and I was oh buddy, we had a late night on that Friday.
I bet.
So, hey, once the Saturday night game was over, everybody was like, hey, we're going to bed. Nobody needs to try to go out and do that again. But it was a wonderful weekend, and this is going to be similar for Tuscaloosa, Alabama. It's not too far from me. It's much closer than you. I can get to Alabama. I can get to University of Alabama way quicker than I can get to the University of Tennessee. So if I were in town, I would have just popped on down. But as soon as I get through talking to you, I'm headed right back to the airport. So I'll be watching it from the CBS Broadcast Center. I'll be in studio all day Saturday for CBS Sports Network. But it's just going to be fabulous. And what I love most about it, I think, it would be great if this were number 1 Kentucky versus number 2 Arkansas. Actually, that would be amazing. All things considered.
You got on an on-ramp there and you realized actually that would
be okay. I started going and I was like, okay, I took the wrong. Let me rephrase. It would be amazing if it was like number 1 Kentucky versus number 2 Tennessee.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
What I like in part about this one is it's football school Alabama and football school Auburn. For decades, people would be like, well, that's a football school. You can't do this at a football school. They'd almost like make you pick. It reminded me like when I was in college. They said, hey, you're going to be a journalist? I said, I hope so. They said, well, what do you want to be? I said, I want to be everything. I didn't say that. I didn't consider it. I said, I want to be a writer. I want to be a columnist someday. They said, okay. And I never took a radio class and I never took a television class because it was like, well, you can't do everything. Yeah. You just do this one thing. Can't do everything. Well, now look at me now. And look at Auburn now. Alabama now, they didn't settle into this mindset of we're going to prioritize football over everything. Like, sure, football is the most important thing and forever will be. But they made basketball matter. They invested. And you know what they did? Here's the key. Yes, they invested in money. They hired 2 of the best coaches working. 2 of the best college basketball coaches alive work at Auburn and Alabama. And that is how you get to this place. And I hope Bruce and Nate can both take the time to enjoy that. Like they have created this moment. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, but they've created a moment that was probably unimaginable for these fan bases once upon a time. They've created this moment, Nate and Bruce, and I hope they can. I don't know if they're best friends or not, but I hope they can have a moment pregame where they just sort of look around and go, man, look at this. We did this, because they did this.
I think they can. And there's been a comment or two in the chat. I get it. We're not going to legislate rivalries and all that stuff. But I said, maybe Auburn, Alabama is the biggest football rivalry out there. I get you, Michigan, Ohio State. The thing is, as Bruce Pearl has mentioned frequently and did to me, there are no pro sports teams in Alabama. Yeah. These teams share a state. They share borders. So I get it. So there's also that element to it as well. And to bring in even more, published the story on Wednesday in the court report, and I got a call from Bruce, and he goes, "You got to fix that story, man." I was like, "What did I do now?" I was like, "Don't tell me I misquoted you, because I didn't." He's like, "No, you got Auburn winning the game last year. We won that game." I was like, "All right." I was like, "You're sure?" He's like, "Yeah. We won the game last year." I was like, "Okay." I was like, No. I'm like, "You're sure?" Like I had it wrong in the story. It's like, yeah. So even to that point, just one, always appreciate a good fact check. Right. I had to write Auburn, Alabama like 79 times, and you're trying to get every so the one that I don't get.
Oh, you don't even know. You just missaid it a second ago.
Oh, did I really? Exactly. So exactly. That's just one thing after another. Exactly. Yeah. So but the point is, I appreciate that he wanted to read it. Yeah. He shared it on social media. Yeah. But him and Nate have I think him and Nate have a genuine respect and even like a decent amount of camaraderie. But that story was up, I want to say, an hour, and Bruce got to it. He's like, "You got to fix that story, man. The score is wrong in there." So I appreciated the edit and the fact check there. And this is, man, and I had a few more things in it. Nada, let's just try and link it in the pod description after. I'd love everyone to go read it. See the history of number 1 versus number 2. Like everything is in there. I love this stuff. But like the Auburn and Alabama fan base is extremely online. Like in football, that's always been the case, but it does feel like in the past half decade, they have taken up the basketball cause as well. I know this all too well because of the fact that because Bruce gave me crap for it again for where I ranked Auburn in the preseason. He's like, don't know how Saturday is going to go, but I don't think we're going to be 27th. And I was like, I got it, man. I apologize on camera, on HQ, in your face in Maui. I got it. We're good. So I'll take it the whole way. The fact that these fan bases have really engaged on it as well it's been awesome. I hope we get a really, really good game. Nada, flick on the mic real quick here, because that is our poll question, and I don't know the results because I can't see them as we're talking here. The poll question today was pick one of the 4 outcomes. Auburn wins by 6 or fewer, which has been, as I said before, 43% of the time we've had a 1 versus 2 be decided by 6 or fewer. There's Auburn or Alabama by 6 or fewer, or either team winning by 7 or fewer. In order, Nada, what is the poll result situation here 40 minutes into the show?
So we have Auburn by 6 or fewer leading the poll at 40%. Alabama by 6 or fewer, 37%. Auburn by 7+, 14%. And Alabama by 7+, 9%.
Okay, so the least likely for our audience is that Alabama can run away with it, or however you want to define that, and the most likely is Auburn wins close. We're going to pick it in the final 4 and 1, so you got to wait a couple more minutes before we get there, but that is intriguing. I would agree, and I would think GP would as well, that 77% of our live audience saying that this game is going to be within 2 possessions when we hit triple zeros. Without giving away your pick, GP, would you agree with that? We're going to pick it close?
I mean, I hope so, but I mean, who the hell knows? It's a basketball game. I mean,
Alabama has scored 100+ 7 times this season, so who the hell knows?
I mean, we've seen Final Four games you get decided by a billion points. Like I assume it will be a close game between 2 of the best teams in the country. But Alabama comes out and knocks down 14 3-pointers. And it won't be. And then keep in mind, Auburn's been playing a lot of the best teams in the country all year long and beating their brains in all year long. So
I know.
Let me ask you one more thing before we move on, and then we'll pick the game in the final 4 and 1. I know you mentioned that one thing that won't change is even if Alabama wins this game, Auburn would be the projected number 1 overall seed on Sunday. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think that's still the case.
I think that is also still the case. But for my purposes, top 25 and 1, would I have to at least consider that suddenly Auburn would be 13-3 in quadrant 1 and Alabama would be 9-3 in quadrant 1? There's a difference there. But they would both have 16 victories inside the first two quadrants. So they would both be 16-3 inside the first two quadrants. You fan it out a little bit, and it evens up. Auburn still would have a pretty significant advantage in quadrant one. Auburn would also, at that point, be 1-2 in its past 3 games. So if you care about how somebody's playing, there's that. And Auburn would be 0-1 against the team that would theoretically replace them. How do you balance all that?
So I don't do the top 25 and 1. If I did, I would do it a little bit.
I wish you would. I wish you would.
I wish you would. Yeah. But Parrish, if Alabama wins on Saturday, you have to put them number 1. You have to. It is too close. And I understand that Alabama has the home floor, but Alabama is going to be the number 2 overall seed when we get to Saturday. I think it is close enough. And with the recency effect, I'm telling you, you need to. When I talked to Oates earlier this week, like he takes all social media, every single thing off his phone. He doesn't have his computer in season. You need to pull a Nate Oates in that respect. You need to delete all social media. If you keep Auburn number 1, do not resurface on social media until March. I'm just telling you, you need to go Alabama.
It is one of it. And you're exactly right for the exact right reasons. Because I could sit down with anybody in this world and explain intelligently why you really should just keep Auburn at number 1. But it will be hard for the people on Twitter to understand.
You're done.
I can explain it to you in great detail, and when I'm done, you'll say, "Okay, GP, I get it." But without that, you're just going to call me an idiot who looks like a penis. That's all I'm going to hear on Twitter. I'm going to be an idiot who doesn't know ball and looks like a penis. A slightly smaller penis than I was when we took those pictures that Nada loves to put up on the screen.
He doesn't first of all, he's trying to help out with the graphic. Okay.
I would rather it just be you by yourself than that picture up there.
Fair enough. Now we know.
Yeah.
Nada, next time, just have it be me.
Hey, if you guys wake up on Sunday and start calling me a penis on Twitter, all right, at least acknowledge that I'm a slightly smaller penis than I used to be. Look at me.
That's right. You're thinning out.
I used to be a penis. I used to be a penis.
Okay, let's keep it moving here. We don't need to get too descriptive. Earmuffs, the kids out there to the show. All right, you want to pick some games?